Welcome back to the channel, guys, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Eternal Ranger Reviews. This week, we are taking a look at the S.H. Figuarts Roronoa Zoro, the raid on Onigashima. I have very mixed feelings about this figure, because, number one, Zoro is probably my favorite character from One Piece. I even cosplay Zoro. I've 3D printed all three of his swords myself. But this figure has its ups and downs. There are some good, but there's a lot of bad. So, before we get into that, let's first take a look at the packaging. So we're going to move Zoro out of the way for later. Let's hope he does not get lost here. Let's go right into the box. So, jumping right off the back, this is a very thicker box compared to most SH Figuarts, and that's because this Zoro comes with a lot of accessories, mostly for his swords. So, jumping right in, you have his name right there and right there, Roronoa Zoro. This is from the raid on Onigashima. Spoiler alert, if you guys are not current on One Piece, this is the outfit that Zoro wears during the final battle against Kaido, along with Luffy, which I will review that at some point. You have, of course, from One Piece, you have your top of the box, which I do like how the top of the box actually is. Oops, I'm sorry about that. I like how the top of the box is actually shaped like Luffy's straw hat. And I love the whole map of the One Piece world along the back of it. On the side of the box, you have, again, your name, Roronoa Zoro. You have that nice map detail. Have another pose of Zoro. On this side of the box, you have a few different faces for Zoro. And the reason why Luffy's face is here is because this Zoro actually comes with an extra face for the Luffy figure, which I believe the Sanji figure does too. I actually don't own that one, so leave it in the comments if you think I should buy and review the Sanji figure. On the bottom of the box, don't mind the price. We're not going to take a look at that, but we are going to look at Zoro. I actually completely forgot the price tag was even on this thing, so we're not going to worry about that. And of course, on the back of the box, you have your obligatory product shots. You have Zoro in different poses, Zoro in different stances, different faces. You have his surprised face along with Luffy's surprised face. Super modeling, super action. Again, simple style and heroic action. Excuse me. Okay, again, caution. Do not eat anything in this box. Nothing in this box is for children under the age of 3. I would not recommend eating it. It will not taste very good. So, that's it for the box itself. Let's take a look at Zoro and his accessories at the same time, because this Zoro, again, I can't say I hate it, but I can't say I love it. So, let's do that first. Alright, so here's everything. This is the Luffy face, which I will actually not review here. I will review this with the Luffy Figuarts when I decide to review that one. So, jumping off the bat, we have, as you can see, there are two separate heads for Zoro. We have the standard head where he's always smiling. You can actually replace this head with any of the other faces. You just have to pop it right in there, and it'll work for any of them. The same with, actually, no, not the same with this Zoro. This Zoro's head is slightly different. So we're going to pull this off real quick, and let me show you exactly what I mean. So the reason why they did two separate heads for Zoro is because this one, let's get the sword out of his mouth real quick. This one always has his bandana on. You cannot take the bandana off, and this face can actually not be changed. His mouth is always open because there's a small, I don't know how well you can see that there's a small tab in his teeth that can hold onto this sword. And it's only this sword that goes into his mouth, the Wado Ichimonji. It's the only sword that he holds in his mouth. Even in the show, it's the only one that he ever puts in his mouth. So, that's why there is a small tab right there on the actual handle of the sword. And these swords are actually very well done. They're very well painted. They're very well shined. I love them. I do love the swords. They have a very nice metallic shine to them. They're a little sharp, a little bit. They're not crazy bendy because they're still plastic, unlike last week's review where I talked about how bendy Ichigo's Zanpakuto was. And that's not a problem. What I do have the problem with is they should have, in my personal opinion, they should have made this face interchangeable with this face, where you could put the sword in either mouth, and they should have been able to make the bandana a choice. Instead of having two separate heads, you should have been able to, like, pop the top of this head off and, just put the Zoro head on. Kind of like Luffy's hat. But let's talk about the heads for a second. I love the painting and the sculpting on the actual heads. They're very good. And this thing does not like to focus. There we go. There's a little bit of focus right there for you. See if I can get it into the light. There we go. So we have some very good detail. You can see the veins in Zoro's head. His hair is very well detailed. And I constantly forget that they even put his 3 earrings in. They don't move or anything like that. But they did a very good job. You have the detail in his eyes. You have, again, you can see the veins in his forehead when he's getting angry. And they put a lot of detail into all the faces. Even his standard, just kind of Zoro being Zoro face. Just his standard look. You can see the furrow in his brows. They did very good detail on these tiny little details on his face. Even his smirking face. Which I personally like this one. This is probably one of my favorite faces of his. This little, if it can focus. Come on. Let's get some focus in here. This thing doesn't want, oh, there it goes. As I move it away, it wanted to focus. No, it doesn't want to focus perfectly. Which is kind of annoying. There we go. So, yeah, so like, you got the furrow in his brows there. You got very good detail in his chin. Very pronounced. His nose looks great. And even on his, like, kind of surprised face, they didn't even have to put that little sweat drop right there on the forehead, but they included it. And it's a very good, exaggerated face, like most of the One Piece faces are. They're very stretched out. They're very exaggerated. I would have liked to be able to choose, instead of having 2 separate heads, just having the one head. You know what I mean? I personally would have liked that better. And because of the fact that they did that they put the 2 different faces on Zoro, they had to come up with, well, what are we going to do about his bandana? And this is one of the problems that I have. So you get this piece, which has his bandana tied on his arm. This part goes onto his arm, which makes this part of his arm pop off very, very easily. So you would just pull this part out. You can see the little peg right there. And it's not even that very good of a connection for the peg. You put this right over there, just like that. And then you would put this right back on his arm. And there you go. But again, they didn't have to do that. I understand why they did it, but I don't think they personally had to. And here's another problem that I have. Whenever you're not using one of the swords, you can't just slide the sword into the sheath that it goes in. It doesn't fit. You have to have one of these other pieces, which is just the handle, along with a little peg that would peg on to whatever sword he's not currently using. So if he's only using Enma and Sandai Kitetsu, you have to put this little peg in, which stops his posability. Which is not the end of the world, but it's not great either. You have all these different hands for Zoro, as every every figure in general comes with. They always come with different hands. You have these standard kind of grabby hands, and you have standard fist hands, very standard. They're actually bigger than Ichigo's hands, which is kind of funny to me. And then, of course, you have the 2 hands to hold his swords. And again, if he's not using the swords, you have to put the swords completely aside and use these little handles with the pegs in. I personally would have liked it better to be able to put the swords in the holster. But they probably couldn't have done that. Now, the painting and the sculpting on this figure, the painting is great. The details are all there. You have this black matte painting on his... that's not even painting. This black matte on his jacket. You have the gold painted on the buttons. This part of his sash can actually spin because it's on a peg. You can actually pull it right off. What was annoying for me, though, is right out of the package, these sword handles actually were all together in one piece, and you actually had to, like, squeeze it into this spot of his sash and, like, peg him into place. It was not easy, let me tell you. It was not easy. They did get the detailing on his chest scar very nice, and if you look very down into his jacket, you can actually see that green vest stomach thing that he wears. I know it has a name, and I don't know what it's called. The back of the figure looks great. He has detail in his back. He can bend pretty far. He doesn't have much of an ab crunch, and I think that's mostly because of his legs. His head is on a ball joint as standard with all Figuarts. He can look down very far, and he can look up about that far. That's it for his range of motion on his head. So, and his skin is painted very well. The detailing is there. I would have liked a little bit of, like, shading in his musculature to show his, like, his muscles, obviously. But my biggest gripe that I have with this is this part is just a rubber plastic piece. And because of that, these come right off. This comes right off. Let's talk about this for a second. As you can, here's his legs, actually. In case anyone didn't know, he does wear pants under this. You can see all the joints in his legs. Not a lot of difference in here compared to my last review. All the details are the same, thigh swivels and everything else. You got the gray paint in his pants and the grayer paint in his boots. Again, I do love a toe bend, but my problem is that even with all this detail and all this maneuverability with his legs, you can't pose him in anything other than this position because of this rubber thing. Because of these pieces, whenever you try to spread his legs, to put him in like a crouching pose or anything like that, it will stretch these pieces out to the point where it'll just pop his chest right off. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So you have to put this part on first. Make sure it fits. Put this part on next. Then you would put his belt sash thing. Actually, it would be better to put this on his chest, I believe. No, it'll stay right there. Then you pop this on. Let's pop all that into place, and it all sits very snug. But the second you go to, like, do that, it comes right apart. I don't like this. I don't like this rubber thing. They should have gone with a cloth material or a better type of stretchy material. A cloth material would be great. It would be fantastic for what this is. For what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a swordsman who does a bunch of different poses. He doesn't just stand like this about to fight. He doesn't do that. So I would personally have loved to see some type of material to get rid of this. That's my only gripe. So if I was to rank this entire figure, I would probably rank it anywhere between a 6 to a 7 out of 10. That's my most generous ranking. If you have a different ranking, you feel free. Comment down below. Tell me what you would rank this figure. If you owned it. Actually, you know what? I messed it up a little bit. And there's another thing. These things pop right off. These little tab pieces. That's why I would have personally liked to be able to just put the sword right there. It would have been a lot better for me, personally. Some people probably wouldn't like that. I would have loved that. And I think I just messed up. Yep, I did. Yep, there we go. There's another problem we have with this. These little peg things drive me crazy. There we go. So, that is my honest review of the S.H. Figuarts Roronoa Zoro from the Battle of Onigashima. thank you guys for watching. This video went a little bit longer than I would have liked it to, and I apologize for that. But thank you guys for tuning in. Feel free to come back next week when I start looking at another toy review. Again, I'm not sure which one it's going to be, but I know it's going to be a good one. So, if you guys have not already, please like the video if you haven't. If you did actually enjoy it, feel free to like it. You do not have to. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to subscribe if you have not. And once you subscribe, please remember to ring the Eternal Ranger bell so that way you can stay up to date on all of my future videos. I am now getting right back on track. As I said last week, I will be posting every Tuesday. If I miss a Tuesday, please feel free to comment on one of my previous videos and remind me. That is not a bad thing. Thank you guys for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and above everything else, may the power protect you. Have a great night, guys.